Hello Indie Game fan, the Steam Next Festival is this week, which means we will be inundated with demos to try, so to release your game this week is probably a fool's errand, but people are gonna try anyway, beginning with Priest Simulator. On paper, the game that people are most looking forward to, being a first-person sandbox shooter in the vein of games like Postal. You play as a vampire priest, battling against demonic forces with irreverent humor, violence and plenty of swearing. It's not really my type of game, but since people seem to be excited about it, I thought I'll give it a mention just in case. For something on the opposite end of things, No More Future is a sci-fi visual novel with great art, where you play as an android finding their way through life, having to question the very foundations that their existence is built on, and seems to be rather philosophical. The developer of Vostok 2061 did reach out, and as a fan of old school shoot 'em ups, I do have to give it a mention. I don't believe there's anything revolutionary or new in this game, but the core action looks decent enough and will be for fans of the genre. I love my Zelda-style action-adventure games, which is why Shogunaria got my attention, not only due to the pixel art look, but because it does have 4 playable characters. The samurai, ninja, miko, and monk all have their own unique story campaigns, which means that there's quite a bit to see, and with inspiration from titles like Zelda, the Ys series, and Golden Axe Warrior, looks to evoke the old-school action-adventure game feel. The Plague Doctor of Wippra is a pixel art adventure game where you play as such a doctor investigating the plague in medieval times, having to fend off not only the sickness, but ignorance, superstition and religious zeal as well. The art style does remind me of something like The Last Door, and has a similar feel, although I don't think that there are explicit supernatural elements in this, but it looks no less oppressive. The last adventure game of interest this week is Blood Nova, one which was successfully kickstarted in February this year, and the developers are making good on that, where you play as a princess, heir to the throne of a galactic empire after her mother the queen abdicated, but she is trapped on an interstellar lighthouse, which is where our story begins. This looks very classically designed from the UI, text and pixel art, with an intriguing setup that might be interesting. Let's kick off the top 5 with Pentacore, a pixel art Metroidvania which is basically Metroid in all but name, even down to the character design, which might get Nintendo's lawyers on their butts. This takes place on a prison planet where you need to find 5 keys in order to escape, looking about as classic as can be. I just talked about the best RPGs not too long ago, and of course have to mention Mana Finder as well, one that looks decent visually and seems to be very classically designed as well. You play as an exiled warrior, having to roam out into the wilderness to search for mana stones to keep their home safe, where in typical JRPG fashion does spin out into a much more complicated scenario. For a smaller JRPG of 8 to 12 hours, the developer did go to the effort of making mini-games, side quests, and alternate endings, so I do have to give credit where it's due and wish them all the best for release. Vacant Kingdom is a pixel art action-adventure game but where combat incorporates bullet hell elements, looking pretty intense. It does take place in a whimsical world filled with cute characters and looks kind of wacky, but the pixel art style is well done and gives it a cohesive feel. There are 3 difficulty levels as well, for those who are not that inclined with bullet hell combat, which is a plus, but I hope that the writing in this is good. Perhaps the title with the most potential this week is 1428 Shadows over Silesia, an isometric action-adventure RPG set in medieval Europe in the midst of religious upheaval and war. It is a grimdark fantasy entry where the story is told from the perspective of 2 main characters on opposing sides of the conflict, with action, stealth, and even puzzle segments. In many ways, this is a throwback to games from the 90s, but hopefully does have some modern polish, where in writing this up, I then realized that the historical backdrop of this game is very real and might be worth reading up on. I love my top-down action roguelites, which, admittedly, is a difficult subgenre to be in post-Hades, where I'm glad that B-Bots is not another Vampire Survivors clone, but it looks more in the vein of games that we love. You play as an explorer, blasting through enemies, having a robotic B-Bot that you can call upon, which is the hook, even having weapon customization, resulting in fantastic looking action, so maybe it might make the list of the best someday.